What happens when you close doors? You close the flow of energy. You close the flow of bonding, right? So there's got to be a certain level. I'm not saying you have to be as wide open as I am, right? Figure out what that balance is for you so that, and the way I share with my mom is totally different than the way that I share with my friend Brian or with my friend Julianne or with anything else, because there's only certain things that I can share with certain people, right?
Welcome to another episode of Mirror Talk Soulful Conversations, where we dive deep into the stories, wisdom, and transformative insights of incredible individuals. Today, I have the honor of speaking with Wendy. I've been on that show before. It was wonderful. It's a blessing, privilege to have her on this podcast. Wendy is an internationally recognized keynote speaker, communication expert, and leadership specialist. As the CEO of TBR Spiritual Health and a regional director, Wendy has dedicated nearly 2 decades to helping people master their relationships, embrace their authentic selves, and communicate with clarity and confidence. A signature 70-20-10 rule and the 7 essential relationships have transformed countless lives. Welcome to the show, Wendy. How are you doing?
Thank you, Toby. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for such a lovely introduction.
Thank you so much. I try to keep it as short as possible because you've done a lot of things and you do a lot of things out there, impacting the life of people out there. And yeah, I believe it's worth it to have a conversation with you to even go deeper into all of the things you do, why you do them, and how we ourselves as listeners could benefit from what you do out there. But before we go into all of that deliciousness, I always say, we'd like to get to know you better by playing a game of cards. So we have, like I said before we started recording, 3 stacks of cards. We have the level 1, which is the icebreakers, and then we have level 2, which is about confessions, and level 3 is about getting deeper. I'm going to pick a card at random. No, I don't know the card I'll pick. I don't know the question that'll be asked. So I'm as excited as well.
Let the universe decide.
Exactly. So I'm just shuffling and just going to pick the card at random, very randomly. And then the question is, what is your favorite trait about yourself?
That I am open-minded.
Yeah.
That I'm open to all the possibilities. I'm open to everybody's perspectives, whether I agree with them or not, taking in the information that works for me, to releasing the stuff that doesn't. I'm open to new adventures, trying new foods, exploring new things. I love the fact that my mind is open.
Just a follow-up question. It's not on the card, but what made you that way? Like, what made you open-minded? Have you been like that from birth or something happened?
Yes. I never stop asking the question. I never stop asking questions. And it drives my family and it drives some of my people crazy because I'm always asking questions. I want to understand. I want to be curious. I want to learn who you are. I want to learn what this universe physically and within physics and within spiritual realms. I want to learn. So I'm constantly just asking questions and taking in new information and processing it. And from day one.
Oh, that's good. I mean, of course, it could be, so for the people annoying, but I believe for oneself, if you're curious and very careful with your curiosity, you'll be able to grow and learn more and be exposed to more things, broadens your horizon and your way of thinking also. Yeah.
Yes. I have to be careful, though, because not everybody else is as open as I am or is as willing to share. Yeah. And so I have to read, right? I have to discern who I'm asking and what I'm asking.
That's true. It's very careful. It's very essential there to be discernful. Yes. Yeah. So the next question, I picked it already. It says, what are you currently addicted to?
I don't have any addictions.
That's good.
I don't. I believe in moderation in everything. If I would say anything, it would probably be what I do. I guess I'm addicted to love. in all forms because it fuels me. And there's this reciprocity that happens and the ripple effect that happens. And yeah, that can, I mean, with the dopamine, I mean, if you think about it in terms of chemistry, that dopamine effect that happens when you feel and you experience love in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. I mean, there's a high that comes with that, right? So, yeah. If it,
your heart beats faster, I don't know, you feel alive.
yeah. Yeah, you feel alive. You're in love with the sun. You're in love with the cat or, you know, whatever it is. And it's just, you have that high.
Yes. And all of a sudden, everything makes sense and everything's just beautiful and everything's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't want to live in that state?
I don't know who doesn't want to live there. All right. Thank you so much for that. The last, this is not a question, but I'll just read it out. It says, if there is something you have been wanting to let it out.
Yeah. So this is my practice this week.
Really?
Ready?
Wow. Okay. Yes.
Yes. I am unbridled me. Unapologetically. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care what anybody else says. I am me, full, boisterous, passionate. I'm just me. No more hiding any piece, any cell, any mitochondria, any personality, anything. I am now officially just me. Take it or leave it.
I love that. Being your true authentic self, not people pleasing, just being you for who you are.
Yeah. No hiding this part of me or that part of me. No more like, so, right. So one of the things that came up for me this week was my playfulness. I was told in high school, one of my best friends, my best friend at the time, we'd been friends for like 6 years, told me that I had gone from being playful to just being childish and she couldn't be my friend anymore. And that stuck with me because I love playing pranks. I love being silly and a little bit goofy and all the things. And that kind of stuck with me. And I decided in the last couple of weeks that I want that to be part of my leadership. Like, why can't leadership be a little bit playful? Right? Or a lot playful, depending on your personality. And the other thing that came up for me was, I used to speak pretty loudly. It comes in the family. And I was at a job and they're like, can you please lower your volume? Because it was a high-end car dealership. And so I did. And that kind of there's like little things like that stick with us or that stick with me. And yeah, I'm no longer lowering my voice. So just, being unbridled me.
That's good.
I'm letting it all out.
Yeah, I love that so much. Thank you so much for answering those questions.
Thank you for the questions. I love it.
I've gotten to know you a little bit better and also learned from you, like being your true self and being, I won't say, maybe addicted is not the right word, but being in love, loving love, being addicted to love, basically. Yeah, that's something I love too. Like, love is just wonderful. Yeah.
Being in love with everything.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of my friends this week said in his own terms, he's like, it's hard to love people. And I was like, you know what? I've made it really easy to love people. I've found it. I've come to a point where it's just really easy to love people. Like, I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to follow in your shoes. I don't have to, anything like that. I can just love you from where I'm sitting. Whether you receive it or not is totally up to you.
But how do you do that? Like, is there something you have to change in your life to be able to accommodate people and love them for whatever they are?
I don't have to accommodate. I just have to love.
You just have to love.
Yeah. There's no accommodating, right? So like, you have your journey, you have your beliefs, you have your experiences, you have the way that you exercise and the way that you eat and all of those things. And so I love that you have those things. I love that you are aware, that you are mindful, that you're operating based off how you want to operate and all of those things. The only time I have to accommodate is when you're in my home and I am your hostess. That's the only time I choose, not have to, I choose to accommodate. Otherwise, I'm just going to love you for being you and walking your journey and doing your thing. And if we're in tune, if we're in frequency, if we're collaborating, if we're friends, if we're, anything else, Great. We'll just see what that looks like.
Sure. I like that. Yeah. It takes some, level of maturity and, love, being in love yourself. I mean, having love in your heart to be able to do that also, I believe. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
right.
I
It's
love
having love in
aspect.
your heart. It's also being emotionally intelligent and emotionally clear. It's also being mindset intelligent and really choosing like what habits you want and don't want, and right, just being intelligent about all of that stuff and being connected with whatever my spiritual beliefs are and my spiritual energies. Um, so I include all three of those: the emotional intelligence, the mindset intelligence, and the spiritual intelligence in order to really have that fine harmony. A lot of people talk about emotional intelligence or EQ. A lot of people talk about mindset, which is great, and they connect the two. But to me, like they're missing that top component, that third component, right? The Trinity holy number, whether you're talking about the Bible or the Sanskrit or anything else, the Trinity number, the holy number is 3. So when you're only talking about 2 components, you're missing something. I'm missing something. Let me use my I statements. I'm missing something. Whether or not you're missing something is totally your choice. So there's the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual for me. And that's how I operate. That's how I work with my people.
Yeah. And they have to work hand in hand, basically. Yeah. The emotional, mental, and the spiritual. Wow. Wendy, I'd like you to take us back to that defining moment or experience that led you to dedicate your life to empowering others, through their spiritual health and effective communication.
Okay, so the effective communication part was when I worked for corporate America and I was in accounting. I grew up on a construction site with my father. So as a 16-year-old girl on a construction site, I had to tell grown men what to do, right? They didn't really like that very much. So it taught me this really strong assertiveness. But the next weekend, I had to go into an office with a bunch of women with my mom. They don't like that assertiveness. I can't speak to them the same way that I spoke to men.
Yeah.
And so my communication was very confused. I was also angry and selfish and a perfectionist. And my boss came to me one day and he's like, look, as long as 70% of the invoices go through fine, 20% get escalated and 10% we write off. Like that's our goal. And all of a sudden, like I had this permission to not be perfect. And I allowed myself to accept that permission. But then I turned that around and looked at it from the lens of communication. And this is what I wrote my book on, called Verbal Turbulence. That generally speaking, this is not, a hard, fast rule. This is a very generalized statement. 70% of what people say is their own stuff, their own experiences, their own beliefs, their own emotions, their own projections. 20% is some sort of combination between them and me or the topic at hand. But only 10% is directly personal to me or to the topic at hand. So if 70 to 90% of the information that they're giving me doesn't even matter or isn't personal to me, then why am I taking it personally?
You don't have to take
And
personally.
then, what's that?
I'm now just saying you don't have to take personally. I mean, in that case.
But it also helps me to focus, to find that 20 to 30% that's really important, that's either personal to me or important to the topic, so that I can sort through all the static, right? And then flip it around on me, like what is the 70% that I'm giving out? And what is the 70% that I'm saying to myself? And I realized that I did the same thing with my output and how I spoke to myself. So I gradually worked on that. I don't want 70. I chose that I wanted the 70% of my output to be directly towards that person or the topic at hand, so that I was very clear. I was present in the conversation. I was present with them. 10% can still be about me because that's how I make it relatable, right? And that's where I bring in my personal story in order to connect both of us. So for me, that's the magic recipe, if you will, for communication. As far as my spiritual journey, about 6 years after that, about 7 or 8 years after that, as I was going through my second divorce, and right before I was going through my second divorce, and I was like, why am I picking these people? Why am I collecting this particular community? Like, what am I doing? And I picked up a book called Energy Medicine by Dr. Donna Eden. And at the time, I was a massage therapist, and I had naturally gravitated towards the energy modalities. And this book was just a total life changer. You know, when you can take, right, think of the freeway system. When you can take all the cars off the freeway, imagine how fast and how proficient and how efficient energy flows down the freeway. The more cars you have on the freeway, the more you have to sort through, the more it slows down, and the less efficient you are in all of your energy systems, whether that's digestion, whether that's sleep, whether that's mental cognibility, whether that's processing your emotions or putting words to your emotions. All of that slows down the more cars that are on the freeway. So for me, by clearing out all of my energy systems, like it opened up all of these things. And I was like, now I get it. Like a lot of this stuff came from my family. Okay. Now I get to choose.
With your family.
You know, because I grew up in a household that was emotionally unintelligent and codependent and alcoholics, drug addicts. So yeah, it's just, so I adopted a lot of, you know, when that's what you're raised by and that's what you think is normal, guess what? That's what you attract. And those were the two husbands that I attracted. And then I went through the loss of a child. And it's like, okay, now we really need to do some heavy work. So it took me like 2 years to get through that book. And it brought out a lot of my gifts, right? The more that you clear up, the more that you clear, now you're making room for the things that serve you to come in because you've gotten all the stuff out of the way that no longer serves you, right? So yeah, that was 2015. So 10 years later.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, the illustration with, you know, once the highway is clear up, the energy is able to flow. I love that so much because I was just reflecting on it myself. That sometimes we have this, you know, high roads in our lives or highways in our lives that are filled up with a lot of things that no longer serve us, and they are blocking us from actually, you know, driving through life or driving through those high roads ourselves. So taking the time, doing the heavy work like you did to remove those trucks or broken down vehicles or vehicles that are slow, that are driving slowly out of the path will help us to flow, basically.
Right. And the more cars you have on the freeway, the more likely you're going to have an accident, right? The more accidents you have that, you know, in relationship to like energy clogs, then your energy is not flowing at all, right? The other assimilation is like the hair in the plumbing lines. How often does our women hair clog the plumbing lines and you have to snake the lines, right, in order to get the water to flow? It's the same thing with our energy system.
That's true. Always keep on cleaning up.
Yes.
Keep on cleaning up so water can flow.
Yes. Pour some Drano down that thing.
But when did you know, a lot of people, they struggle with self-doubt and internal conflicts, like, you know, when their relationships, and it also affects their communication, especially at work and also in their relationship personally or privately. So from your work with people out there, from the 70-20 pattern or route that you use also, what advice do you have for them to tame that internal turbulence?
I'm so glad you asked this question because this is like my latest material and everybody is just jiving off of it and it's working so well for people. In fact, I just walked somebody through this morning with his relationship with judgment. Be clear on your relationships. Like, first of all, how do you define a relationship? What is a relationship to you? And so I'm talking about it in the terms of like making tacos, right? So first you have to decide that you're making tacos, right? Everybody loves tacos. Everybody knows what a taco is. But how do you define a taco? right? So for me, the way I define a relationship, I've been able to simplify it to one sentence. It's a connection between two elements, right? And then you have to feed that connection with something. You don't want it to just be blank, because otherwise you're going to have all of this conflict. You're not going to be clear. You're going to be confused. You're going to invite all these different things in. So being clear on what you want in that, right? So what kind of tacos are you making? Are you making beef tacos, chicken tacos, a dessert taco, a breakfast taco? Like, what kind of a taco are you making? What ingredients do you want in your relationships? Is it collaboration? Is it safety, security, affection, right? And when I say these things like in a general term, it relates to all kinds of relationships, not just with humans, but with money, with emotions, with body parts, with money. It all applies, right? So let's take one of my favorite examples is collaboration. In my human to human, in my relationship with monies, in my relationships with my emotions, I want collaboration, right? So what does that look like in terms of money? Well, I want us to work together, right? So having a healthy relationship with receiving and being in collaboration with my clients and how to work with them in order to receive, then I have money to be able to leverage. And so I want to be in collaboration with my money so that I know how to save. I know how to spend. I know how to invest. I know, using debt as leverage. All of these, right? So there's a collaboration there in terms of exercise, right? Collaboration in terms of my relationship with exercise is doing the right exercises that are appropriate for me, my injuries, what I'm capable of doing, what works for my particular body, what season am I in, the fact that I'm female, the fact that I'm perimenopause, right? All of these things, like that all needs to be in collaboration with my relationship with exercise, or the things that I'm doing with exercise needs to be in collaboration with it. Right? So what ingredients do you want in your tacos? Right? And coming up with at least 6 things. And then the next step is layering the taco, right? So of those ingredients, which one is the foundation? Which one is the tortilla, the lettuce wrap, the whatever you're using as the base of your taco? And then which 3 make up the meat, make up the substance? So like the foundation could be the security or communication wrap, right? Whatever you want. The meat of it could be the affection, the support, the collaboration. And then you have your toppings, right? The lettuce, the tomato, the cheese. What the next 2 ingredients creates the texture, creates like a little bit of flavor. And then what's the last one that you just sprinkle on top that just adds that spiciness, that last something that makes it special? And then how do you ratio that, right? So that you come up with the recipe that works for you. And when you can get that clear on what a relationship is and what that formula is for you, the communication, the clarity automatically comes because you've done the work.
Yeah. Oh, that's so deep. I mean, I'll just actually prepare my taco in my head right now.
I could see your wheels turning.
Yeah, man. I was visualizing the taco in my head, and I was already putting all the tortillas and everything, and the beef and everything into it. I was like,
I went through this yesterday, and she's like, God, now I'm hungry for tacos.
Exactly. Honestly, my mind was already looking at the taco. I was like,
she's like, you have no idea how much I love tacos.
But what you say is really true. I mean, we have to really know what we want. Like, if it's in a relationship, we have to know what a relationship is and be able to define it for ourselves. Like, going into
And then once you create that base, right? Now you have a base to use. Now you can take that base and apply it specifically to your romantic partner and figure out how to tailor it just for that particular relationship or person. Then you can take that base and apply it to your relationship with anger or judgment, right? So you have to have a base first. You have to have something to start with, and then you can specify it to different relationships.
That's true. Yeah. I think if one could take it, maybe it's even a step maybe before, you have to even know what you want to eat. I mean, I'm going back to food again.
Yeah,
Like, okay,
right. You have to decide that you
you have
even
to
want
decide.
tacos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and go to the shop or the store and get the things, the ingredients that you have to arrange to make that taco for yourself.
Yeah,
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 right. So are you building a relationship or are you allowing a relationship to happen?
that's true. One has to be able to know that.
Right? So if we don't control our relationships control us. And that's when we experience disharmony, conflict, incongruency, misalignment, like all of these things. Our money doesn't show up. This person betrayed you. You lost trust in this person, or now you're in victim mentality, or you're feeling despair. All of these things because you're allowing your external environments control your environment instead of you taking control, figuring out what you want, and you controlling your relationships as much as you can within, like, not control, but moderating, leading. That's the word I want to use. Leading in your relationships, right? Here's a great example. My mother told me a year ago, just over a year ago, that she was afraid for my life because of
Why?
some of the things that I'm into.
Okay.
And I was like, you don't need to be. God's got me. I'm good. And she's like, well, I'm your mother. I'm going to be anyways. And I was like, but I would rather you not live in fear. Like, I don't want that for you.
Mm.
If you're okay with that, that's up to you. I would rather you not. And we just kind of let it be. And so what I did, I led with faith and hope. Now, this has worked twice for me recently. I led with faith and hope. I'm just going to feed faith and hope into that connection with her and see what happened. Just about a year later, we're talking and somehow this came up and something came up and she said, oh yeah, I totally accept where you are. And I was,
Yeah.
yes, right? Like, I don't have to force it on her. I don't have to
Mm.
say, no, blah, 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 blah. This is how I want you to act. This is how I want you to think. That's not fair. She has her own agency to be her own person. But I'm going to lead with my energy and my intentions in that and hope that she comes around.
Yeah.
And she did. And now we can start a new relationship with acceptance. And I decided I'm going to rebuild this relationship, right? Because now the ball's back in my court. I sent her energy. She returned it. Ball's
100%.
back in my court. Now what am I going to do with that? I chose, I'm going to rebuild this relationship with a clean slate. No more, she used to do this. She used to do that. She treats me like the clean slate, chalkboard, wipe it off. And we're gonna start this all over again. And so I got my sister on board, and my mom doesn't know this yet. We're gonna do a mom and daughter date once a month on Zoom, and just talk
Good.
and see, what we can create going forward. And that worked with another incident with me. And this is leadership in relationships. Right. So I'm hosting a conference in April. I had somebody sponsor my event, and then he had a medical emergency within his family, asked me for his sponsorship money back. And of course, it's already been spent.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'd really like you to reconsider. Like, I need to save my wife's life.
Mm.
And I'm
The money's
like,
gone.
I want to. I want to, but it's spent. It's not there. And so he cut me off. And I sent him an email. I'm like, I'm sorry that this is your position. I totally understand. And I understand the situation that you're going through. And I'm totally empathetic. And I'm just going to hold hope and faith that we will eventually reconvene and reconcile. That was a month or so ago. Yesterday, he sent me an apology and asked me to forgive him.
Sweet. That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
Lead with your intentions. Right. And now we've reconciled. He's back to being my sponsor. I get to support him Like, and I told him, I'm like, I want to support you. I want to promote your business so that you can make more money so that you can pay your wife's medical bills. Like, that's what I want. But if you take this away and I can't market you, then I can't market you. Right? So really leading with your intentions, even if you can't force somebody to do something, but you can put that energy and those intentions in and hope, right? Plant the seed and hope that they will water it and come back around.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing that. I mean, that's defining the relationship, sending out, working with intention, something that is sticking out to me right now. Like, always be intentional about everything, about the energy you send out there, about how you appear, how you show up in your relationship, in the world at large also. So
Yeah.
talking about relationship, it makes me remember your 7 essential relationships model that you developed. So I don't know if you could walk us through these relationships and, explain why they are so crucial for personal and professional growth.
Yes. I was trying to remember all 7 of them yesterday. Okay. So there's money, mentality, emotions, judgment, vulnerability. There's 2 more. I'm I'm gonna work on these, but they are crucial because they're all part of whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in family or anything like that. These are like the 7 most essential that guides everything else. And so here we are. I'm pulling it up. So you have mentality, money, emotions, judgment. Oh, independence and intuition are the other 2, right? So when let's take independence. And I really do, I'm an independent person. But, we have to have a balance of independence and being our own person, being a lover, being sister, brother, daughter, son, employer, employee, whatever your situation is. There's got to be that balance between I and me. This is my magic. This is my authenticity. And how are we going to collaborate together? How are we going to work together so that you can be your independent person and be your own agent? I can be my own agent, but still be in relationship with whatever it is, right? I think that's incredibly important. Knowing what your relationship with vulnerability, being able to share, like I've been able to share some pretty deep stories, seeing vulnerability as a strength so that you can open up with whoever it is that you're opening up with, even if that's yourself, to create a deeper bond. And seeing that as a strength rather than a weakness. When you see it as a weakness, you tend to hold back and you protect yourself. Well, by closing those doors, what happens when you close doors? You close the flow of energy. You close the flow of bonding, right? So there's got to be a certain level. I'm not saying you have to be as wide open as I am, right? Figure out what that balance is for you so that, and the way I share with my mom is totally different than the way that I share with my friend Brian or with my friend Julianne or with anything else, because there's only certain things that I can share with certain people, right? So like my mom is not as open with personal development as I am. So on a scale of 1 to 10, our conversation on that is about a 3, which is better than it was when it was down to a 1, right? So it's starting to improve. That door is starting to open up a little bit more, right? But knowing, right, you have to have that, I have to have that healthy relationship with vulnerability in order to be able to open the door, right? And to be able to create those bonds and share stories. Right? Who doesn't want to have their story heard?
Everyone wants to hear it. I'll just react.
Yeah. Judgment is another incredibly important relationship. I don't know if anybody out there that's just like, I'm tired of being judged. I hate being judged. I'm feeling judged. Well, what's wrong with that? I find honor and respect in being vetted, right? But it's also, what are you okay with being judged on? And by whom, right? If there's somebody over here that doesn't like me and we're not in frequency with each other, we're not in alignment with each other, they have different belief systems and all the things, and they're judging me, I don't care. No, because you don't get me. So your opinion for me doesn't matter. The people that are in my inner circle, right? And where is that judgment coming from? Is it coming from love? Is it coming from a wounded ego? Is it coming from trauma? Is it coming from kindness? Right? And being able to develop that for yourself so that you can identify all the different components that make up judgment and find some sort of healthy relationship with judgment. Because it's not going to go away. We're humans.
Of course, we always judge.
Yeah, we're humans. We judge. So turn it into an opportunity and a tool to help you progress and move forward versus something that holds you back.
Yeah. That's very deep. Yeah. And what you said about, when someone is judging, when people are judging, I think you said, I understand that we have to be able to discern if it's coming from a place of love or coming from a place of, ego or broken, self or heart, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if it's coming from love, yes, you can embrace it because it's coming from a place of love. Or if it's coming from a broken ego, you can just okay, it's not for me. You can talk. You have the freedom of speech, just as I do also.
Right. Or let's talk about the hurt and where that's coming from so that we can turn your judgment into something that comes from love or help us understand each other a little bit better. Right. And that's where the vulnerability comes in. Right. So they all kind of work together.
Yeah. That's something for me to ruminate on a little bit. Yeah, I would like us to talk about leadership now, because I would really love us to touch on that because you help leaders out there. Before we wrap this up, you often emphasize self-leadership as a key of success or a key to success. Like, what are some practical steps that we that are listening to you right now today can take, to cultivate stronger self-leadership?
I always start with the grocery store because it's so relatable. Everybody goes to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Be intentional about what you're buying, right?
Mm.
Lead by self. What are you feeding into your body? Whether it's food, TV, radio, music, like whatever it is, be intentional about what you're feeding into your body. And take the, if you're frazzled, let's say you got some kids. This is what's coming up for me right now. Let's say you got kids and your kids are getting on your nerves and they're arguing in the back seat or they're pushing on the seat or whatever it is that they're doing. And you're about to go into the grocery store. Well, if you just go straight in with that emotion and that energy, you're going to end up buying, yes, just go ahead and buy the sugar cereal so I don't have to deal with it, right? Is that really, one, you're not being responsible, you're not leading with money and being conscientious about how you're spending your money and what you're spending on. Two, you're showing your kids that frustration. Three, you're not being intentional about what you're putting in your body, let alone your kid's body. So if you're in that state, taking 5-10 minutes to just meditate and ground yourself and be intentional about how you want to move into the next step of going grocery shopping so that you can be focused, right? Okay, we have a $200 budget. That means no extras. We can only buy the essentials. Right? So by being able to ground yourself and get focused, then you can lead yourself with that focus. And then you can lead your kids that way as well. Right? So again, are you allowing the exterior elements to control you? Or are you taking control of yourself and your energy and your focus and your intentions and leading yourself in the direction that you want to go? Because if you overspend on your budget, on your grocery budget, guess what? You got to cut back on something else, or you're going to go into the negative types of debt, right? They all relate.
That's true. Being intentional. Yeah, that's true. I mean, of course, we have external factors like the kids at the back seat that try to take us off our balance.
Yeah, so it's up to you to get back into your balance.
Yes. That's where we're able to lead ourselves personally, because like you said earlier, we should be in control or in charge of, for example, relationship. Don't let the external things be in charge of you. So when different factors, try to move you off your balance, you try to move the ship back on course, and yeah, Stay a
Yes,
course.
because what happens? You end up lashing out on the kids. They get their feelings hurt. Now you got to soothe them, put them to bed, all the things. And when you go to bed, there's the self-punishment for lashing out on your kid.
Yeah.
Is that the way you want to lead, right? Is that the way you want to lead yourself? Is that the example that you want to set for your kids? Is that the view of you that you want your kids to have of you?
Yeah.
Right? Is this person that lashes out and can't control their emotion?
I believe that way you just create evil patterns, basically. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true.
And then you're sitting there crying yourself to sleep. That's not how I want to fall asleep. I want to fall asleep peacefully. Like I might have to do some meditation and some inner thought work before I go to sleep so that I can go to sleep peacefully. But I'm willing to do that versus self-punishment and crying myself to sleep.
Yeah. That's not it. Yeah. So, okay, that's about, self-leadership. Now let's take it outside there, like leading in, a place of work. A lot of entrepreneurs out there, they struggle to balance spirituality and business success together because sometimes you think you can't coexist in the same place. So how can spiritual alignment enhance our ability to thrive in business and leadership?
Oh my gosh, so many ways, right? So your self-leadership, right? If we're talking about your business, right? There's two different sides here, right? So if you're talking about your business and you're a small business owner, or you're an entrepreneur, your self-leadership dictates everything about your business. The people you hire, the clients you hire, the vendors you hire, how you budget, right? So if your personal relationship with money is off, guess what? So is your business finances. If you can't clearly create relationships, then your work culture and the clients that you hire are all going to be off, which means your retention ratio is going to be high. Your client satisfaction ratio is going to be low. You're going to end up spending more time, money, and energy on the wrong people, which means you're going to feel like you're always in this rat race and you're exhausting all of your energy. It means your networking is not going to be successful, right? That's something I'm dealing with an entrepreneur right now. He's just like, I'm tired of always doing the chasing. Stop doing the chasing. Be the element, be the lighthouse that attracts what you want, right? So by being the leadership, by being in self-leadership and right? So most businesses have, they say, right, create a vision statement and a mission statement for your business. So when you write those, everything else about your business should be derived off of that, right? Those vision and mission statements. The vision and mission statements should be based off of your spiritual principles, your beliefs, the ingredients in the relationships that you want. Like all of those components should come into your vision and your mission statement so that everything is all collaborating and working in harmony together, right? They talk about this in branding. Your branding should be consistent. It's your personal branding. So what you believe should be in your relationships, what you believe that should be in your principles and your belief systems your business should be all about that because it's an extension of you, right?
Yes.
Turning it around to the employee perspective, how you present yourself as an employee should be in coordination with your principles and beliefs. And if management or employees, like coworkers, try and throw you off of that, right? Finding that strength and making sure that you're strongly rooted in those so that they don't throw you off your rocker, right? And then going home and making sure that you do the self-care and all the things in order to dispel anything that's not working for you that you collected from that day. That is self-leadership in terms of being an employee, not agreeing to doing tasks, right? Communicating with your boss saying, this is my limit. I'm at my limit. Like I can't take on any more tasks, right? So that you are working with your boss. Or if they try and pile more on, being like, okay, well, you want me to do all of these things. I don't see how I can get them all done in the timeline that you want me to get them all done in. So will you please tell me how? Will you please help me to prioritize these so I can get them all done for you? Work with them. Don't just be like, oh, go to the water cooler and complain about your boss and blah, 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 and all this stuff, right? That's the negative toxicity that creates a negative work culture and creates the, when you get up in the morning, I got to go into work. Who wants to do that? Who wants to start their day that way?
And not me.
Right. So how are you working with the system that you're in based off your beliefs, your principles, the ingredients that you want in your relationships? How are you leading with all of that in whatever environment that you're in to create a happy environment, either for yourself or the one that you're in as much as possible?
We have to be able to create that environment for ourselves and stick to your belief and your values.
Yeah, don't let anybody shake you off your beliefs and values, right? Those are yours. And that's the foundation. To me, that's everything that everything else is based off of, right? That's the trunk of the tree is your principles and your beliefs. So everything else from the tree, the rest of the trunk, the branches, the leaves, the fruit or whatever it is that it provides, all of that stuff should be derived off the principles and the beliefs and the values that you believe in.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Yeah, that's good. And that's what's right now. That's one of the reasons why right now I want us to talk about your book, which is Verbal Turbulence. Like, can you share a little bit about it? I know in the book you talk about the power of effective communication. And now we've talked about leadership also. Yeah, that's it. Verbal, yeah.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. So as I explained a little bit earlier, in terms of what I'm communicating, being a leader is choosing my levels of communication. If I'm just like I used to, if I'm just letting my communication just flow out all over the place, as my mom told me, she's like, you would just walk into a room, walk right up to a person, regardless of what they were doing or who else was in the room, lash out, say what you needed to say, turn around and walk out and leave them in tears. That is the case of communication controlling you, right? Versus being in control and being in leadership of your communication. I always believed that, or I used to believe that if I wanted to be my authentic self, I needed to just say whatever I needed to say, however it came out. No.
Like people, yeah.
I learned that I would never have any healthy, successful relationships if that's how I operated. Now, advance forward, it's not that I can't say what I need to say, but how can I say what I need to say in love, with good intentions, and using the vocabulary of the person that I'm speaking to so it will be best received. Right? So, for example, if somebody's a basketball fan, maybe put it in terms of basketball, whatever message it is, right? But you have to actively listen to the person that you're speaking to in order to hear the key words that they use often, or to hear, the language that they're using in order to be able to repeat that, right? So what's another good example? Right, like tacos, everybody knows tacos, right? So that's why I frame the relationship stuff in terms of tacos, because it's super relatable, right? But if I go into talking about, being this and this and this and that, and being all in the technical terms, people are going to shut it down because they don't want to hear the technical terms, right? So choosing how you want to communicate, really being intentional with your message and who you're speaking it to. This goes in business, in marketing, in romantic relations. This is applicable to all types of communication, right? Being super intentional, conscientious. And how are you leading? Are you leading in hurt? Are you leading in love? Are you leading in judgment? Do you see how they all kind of circle back around to each other?
Yeah, they all That's
Yeah.
why you're
Yeah.
connected to that.
So when I was going through the 70-20-10 rule and I was listening to how I spoke to myself, I realized that 90% of the way that I spoke to myself was negative. And if I'm
So
talking to myself that way, no wonder it's coming out that way,
that's where.
right? So I had to slowly and gradually change that one step at a time.
Mm.
There were times I would sit on the freeway and like somebody would cut me off, right? Driving down the freeway, somebody cut me off and I would have a reaction. And then I'd be like, oh, yeah, I don't want to respond that way. I don't want to react that way or respond that way. And so I'd scratch it out and I'd wait for the next one to come up. And if I didn't like that one, I'd scratch it out and I'd wait for the next one to come up. And this is how we change our neural pathways. And so once the right response came up, I'd circle on and be like, yep, that's the one that I want. Record that. And so it does take a lot of work up front, just like learning to ride a bike. It takes a lot of work up front, but once you get it and you reestablish that muscle memory, it becomes so much easier.
Yeah. It becomes easier and becomes a part of you, basically.
Sometimes I just need to smile while I'm working through that, right? Because smiling produces all the happy hormones, the serotonin and all of those other neurotransmitters. And so if you're intentionally producing the endocrine system, the hormones and the neurotransmitters that are going to increase your happiness, what do you think is going to happen with your thoughts, in your emotions, in your responses with people? So instead of saying, blah, 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 he cut me off, now it's, oh, thanks for not hitting me. I appreciate that. You gave me enough room to where you didn't hit me. So thank you.
You come, happy, and your output to be happy, your response to things to be happy, or positive, basically.
Yeah. A lot of people just call them gratitude statements.
Yeah.
Right? But how do you get to the gratitude statements? You got to find the silver lining.
Wow, Wendy, I've learned so much from you. I mean, that's been a blessing speaking with you. I'm sure I'm very sure I'm not able to cover everything that I wanted to ask you, but we have to wrap up because of your time. I'm looking at the time actually already. So for people out there who still want to work with you, who want to maybe ask more questions, get to know you better, get your book, and just maybe enroll for your leadership courses and programs that you offer, what's the best way to work with you and connect with you?
So you can reach out to me on my phone, 844-735-6090, or you can go to tbrspiritualhealth.com. That's T as in two, B as in B, and R as in revealed. To be revealed. Health.com. And let's set up a free one-on-one chat and let's just talk and see if we connect and see what the frequency is. And you can ask me some questions, no holds barred. Let's just have a chat and see what's going on.
So, yes, I'll place the link to your website in the show notes of this episode to encourage anyone out there who wants to connect with you, work with you. Just click on the link, copy the link, and get to enjoy more of these. Yeah, more of these that we've got in this conversation.
Let's get some more goodies out there.
Some more goodies, yeah. Thank you so much, Wendy. It has been a blessing speaking with you. I really, really appreciate this. Thank you.
And thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Hey there, podcast enthusiasts. Are you ready to add a little sparkle to your day? If you're loving the insightful conversations and captivating stories on Mirror Talk Podcast, here's a friendly nudge to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on the empowering messages and thought-provoking discussions we bring to your ears. But wait, there's more. We're all about spreading positivity and inspiration, and you can be a part of it too. How? By sharing the love with your friends and family. Share this episode with your loved ones, and let's create a ripple effect of empowerment and growth together. And hey, if you've been enjoying what you hear, why not take a moment to leave us a glowing 5-star review? Your feedback fuels our passion to keep delivering content that resonates with you. So hit that subscribe button, share the love, and leave us a review. Let's keep the conversation going and spread the Mirror Talk magic far and wide. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, your support means the world to us.